Hello and welcome to The Rest is Entertainment with me, Marina Hyde.
And me, Richard Osman. Hello, Marina.
Hello, Richard. It is very nice to be back.
It's lovely to be back. How is 2024 treating you?
It's treating me incredibly. I've only recently come back from being in Austria, so I'm having the re-enter to the atmosphere.
I have to tell you, it has literally not stopped raining here for the entire
Yes, I know.
year.
I saw.
We've got a biblical year in store for us. It's going to be arcs and floods all the way through here, from here to December. That's my prediction. Some interesting things to talk about.
We've got some very interesting things to talk about.
We're going to talk about Mr. Bates and the Post Office, the ITV drama, and the ramifications of it, the fallout of it.
The impact of it.
The impact of it.
Can we talk about The Traitors, which is back on the BBC?
There will be no spoilers. There will be absolutely zero spoilers from either of us, but we are going to talk about how we would win the Traitors, what tactics and strategy we would use to win the Traitors.
I feel like you're going to be better at this than me, but I have got some ideas.
I think I've seen a chink in their armour. I think I've seen that. I also want to talk at the end a little bit about Luke Littler, the 16-year-old darts player, and the phenomenon that became and how everyone fell in love with darts and what that means and sport on TV and stuff like that. And I think maybe talk about the Golden Globes.
The Golden Globes happened last night. We're recording this on a Monday, and we'll talk about that and which sort of formally kick off awards season for the movies.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we have.
Haven't we? Post office scandals, Traitors, darts, and Golden Globes. Yes, please. That's a commute I want to be on. Shall we?
Right then, shall we? Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Now, this is ITV's dramatisation of the story of the wrongly convicted postmasters, which aired on consecutive nights last week and is available on Catch Up on ITVX. Now, I'm just going to do a bit of background because I guess the whole point about it, a large part about why we're talking about this is a story that's sort of gone under people's radar for various reasons, which we'll come to.
And you have written about this for a number of years.
I have written about this for some time. The first people to start writing about it were writing about it way back in 2009. We will come to those as well. I should say first that it is the most widespread miscarriage of justice in British legal history. It is a tale of complete corporate psychopathy in which the victims were that very backbone of England, postmasters and postmistresses. In 1999, basically, what happened is that the Post Office installed by decree a new computer system called Horizon, which began throwing up errors in people's who ran post offices in their accounts. And they were sort of forced to make up the shortfalls. And they were told that it wasn't happening to anyone else. There was a helpline you could ring. People lost their businesses, they borrowed from everyone, they lost their homes, and eventually the Post Office began prosecuting them. Around 900 were prosecuted, 736 were convicted on faulty evidence, and I'm afraid it's pretty clear that evidence was knowingly faulty. Hundreds went to jail. Now, they were imprisoned pregnant, they're still in their teens in one case, on their young child's birthday, in old age, high security jails where they saw and suffered themselves terrible things. At least 60 have died without seeing justice or compensation, and at least 4 have taken their own lives. They were shunned, they've been put into physical and mental problems from which they've never recovered. But not one of the people responsible for this miscarriage of justice has ever been brought to justice or even been held accountable. There is an inquiry ongoing. Again, we'll come to it. But ITV have dramatised this story. Alan Bates, who is one of the wronged postmasters, who has masterminded the campaign, which has been beyond uphill struggle. It was like a war, really, one of the victims said this weekend, and you can believe it. He's played by Toby Jones in the drama. And this is a story, it's had a huge impact on people. Talking to people at ITV, they screened it in this part of January, which is the very best viewing of the year, really. And they really pushed it. And I must say that I was speaking to people that some people, 1 million downloaded it and watched the whole season in one go, which is like off the charts on binge watching. Have you seen it, Richard?
Yes, I saw all 4 episodes. And it's fascinating, isn't it? Because it's a genuinely mind-bogglingly awful story. It's awful.
You can't.
What happened to these people? And it's awful that it was done, as you say. It seems to have been done knowingly. Now, people have been writing about this for a while. Computer Weekly were the first people to bring it up at all. Private Eye have written about it. You've written about it a lot. So it's a story that I
do not go right back to the beginning on this one, and I should say that right from the start. But Nick Wallace, the journalist for the BBC, who, I mean, this is not denigrating local news at all. He was a fantastic, and he's now a freelancer, but he details very well in his book The Great Post Office Scandal. I mean, the struggle to get a tiny item on local news about it, on local TV news, was huge. And he kept plugging. And it's extraordinary that it's taken this long. It's really a sort of over 20-year story.
It's fascinating that it takes a terrestrial television drama, that much maligned species that we're told no one watches anymore, to really raise it to the biggest story in the country, a real lightning rod. So suddenly the politicians are having to take it seriously. And it is an extraordinary thing that why people sort of cry conspiracy and incompetence about a million different things a day on Twitter and on Facebook, that this thing was staring us in the face.
This is what it really
along.
looks like. It's absolutely extraordinary. This is, in a way, it has everything. It has all the ingredients for a drama, because it's a sort of tale of executives and computers being believed over ordinary people who, by the way, I mean, postmasters, the least gangsterish class out there. They're really pillars of their communities. And for this to happen, you sort of feel it could happen to anybody, because if it could happen to so many people and such dreadful consequences, and then no one really, it never had the purchase on the public imagination. And I must say that the mainstream media in general have not, with some exceptions, have not been great at covering it. They're certainly covering it now.
Yeah.
But don't worry if you're not fully caught up, because the second best time to start caring about it is now. The inquiry is running right now as we speak. You can watch it on their YouTube channel. It's really well run, the inquiry. It's the Judge Wynne Williams is in charge of it, and their YouTube channel is very good. And this week they've got Fujitsu, who are the people who are responsible for the Horizon computer system. People haven't been adequately compensated. There are 3 different schemes for compensation, none of which are properly adequate. And as I say, many people have died without receiving any of it. What I think is interesting, to talk about the drama itself, because that's what we do on this show.
Yes, exactly.
The screenwriter, Gwyneth Hughes, has had, I remember when I first heard about this, which was quite a long time ago, that it was going to happen. I was so thrilled they were going to do it. But I did think, God, I don't sort of envy you having to try and wrestle that material, because the sheer scale of it, trying to wrestle it into individual stories, she used the figure of Alan Bates, which is by far the best thing to do. And to try and kind of get it, she said that when she was writing it, she had this sort of image in her mind of Avengers Assemble, except instead of superheroes, it was people in like woolly hats driving Austin Minis. And she's done a fantastic job in making it very clear. And I mean, God, what a sinister computer. When you look at this like little computer system, this Horizon terminal beeping kind of malevolently away under these counters, it really is a chill. And so I think she's done a sort of fantastic job. ITV have done a fantastic job in actually going for this story. I have seen a lot of people on social media and other places saying, well, I'm really annoyed it's taken a television drama to bring this to bring this to people's attention. Why? That's absolutely fantastic for, as you say, a linear terrestrial broadcast drama to suddenly ignite the public consciousness like this. There are other examples, and we can talk about some of those in a minute. But isn't that a most wonderful story? And you know what? I was in touch with Rebecca Thompson, who we've talked about, who wrote the first Computer Weekly story about it in 2009. None of these people, they're thrilled about what's happened in the drama. Whatever it takes to get it over the line. For whatever reason, the way you can raise mass consciousness about this, that television has done that I think is an incredible story. There are other stories out there. The loan charge scandal, these are things that people don't really know about, but which I hope people and broadcasters will think, well, hang on, let's get into that. What are other things we could do to kind of create these mass moments about something that's real and really happening now?
Extraordinarily cast as well. I think, you've got Toby Jones as Alan Bates. And I think it's a good rule of thumb, if you're a politician or an executive somewhere and you're having trouble with somebody at the moment and you're trying to get one over on them, just think, in 20 years' time, could the person I'm trying to get one over on possibly be played by Toby Jones in a drama on ITV? And if they could, then you're probably in the wrong.
You're losing big time.
But yeah, to have Toby Jones and Julie Hesmond-Howard and Monica Dolan, just great ITV names. I kept expecting Jason Watkins to turn up, maybe in series 2. It humanises the story so perfectly. But the material they are working with, it's so devastating. I mean, you want to throw things at the screen. The woman at the heart of this thing, Paula Venables. Now, Paula Venables has not been charged with anything. She's the subject of this current inquiry, one of the many subjects, but she has not been charged with anything.
She got a CBE in 2019, the year 2019.
So can she be all bad? That's all I'm saying. If she got a C, they wouldn't give her a CBE if she'd done something wrong.
Alan Bates has refused his OBE while she still retains hers.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's something to get behind in 2024.
Absolutely.
Unless she's innocent. No,
it's Sir Alan Bates, I think.
Which is Sir
Alan
Bates. But wasn't Alan Bates the actor, Sir Alan Bates?
Was he?
Oh,
right. Well, I'm happy for him to be in the upper chamber, quite frankly. Can he be in the House of Lords? I'm
Bates.
quite happy for it, yeah.
I think that...
Michelle Mone out, him in.
Oh,
what a traitor. One by one, let's try and raise the bar.
Promotion and relegation from the House of Lords.
Yeah.
That's something we could...
Yes, that is really what Lords reform might look like.
Yeah. Exactly, like the playoffs at Wembley.
Yes.
I think that there's something to be said. We're all in silos. I get it. We're all in bubbles, and people can shout and talk all they want about certain subjects, and it comes to the point where you're talking to a smaller and smaller group of people. There's something that only television can do, and only terrestrial television can do, and that's get millions upon millions upon millions of people to watch something. And if you've got 5 million people, 6, 7 by the time all the ITVX figures are put in, that is quite a significant proportion of the British people, and certainly enough of a proportion of the British people for this to be a genuine story. I mean,
by the way, I think it's going to be a lot more than that. I think it could go up to 10, and I think it could be their biggest drama of the year.
Which would be so great, and such a testament to Alan Bates and to all the other incredible campaigners who've been through everything. But fascinating that politicians have learned over the last 10, 15 years that they can ignore almost everything because they recognise that everything is siloed, and they recognise that after the first initial sort of flame of something, it burns out smaller and smaller, gets smaller and smaller, and then it disappears. So you can ignore stuff. Trump understands you can ignore stuff. Yeah. Rishi Sunak has now understood.
You have 4 news cycles a day. You can just turn it over onto something else.
Exactly that. But everybody still recognises, and you can see that Sunak recognises, that sometimes a story leaps to the top of the agenda and is staying there. And ITV and terrestrial drama has done that this week.
And actually, there are very few. I was looking back and I was trying to sort of I'm sure I've left some out, but a little bit of an audit of these TV dramas that actually made a difference to public policy, to social consciousness about an issue. And there are really, obviously the main first one that people say is Cathy Come Home, which was about a young family that become homeless. And that's in 1966. That's directed by Ken Loach, written by Jeremy Sanford. That changed things. Not quite, almost in the public imagination, people think it changed more. Who bombed Birmingham? Again, ITV, 1990. That was about the Birmingham pub bomb. These are the things, there are very few that actually make a difference, but this kind of catapulted that story back to public consciousness, and the actual interrogated the story. And in the next year, the Birmingham 6 were exonerated in the Court of Appeal. Jimmy McGovern's Hillsborough was a huge part, again for ITV, it was a huge part of getting public consciousness and pushing for the inquiry, or inquiries as it turned out. But there aren't that many. It's interesting that some of these haven't been most of these haven't been on the BBC. In the mid-'80s, they had stuff like Threads. There was that kind of spate of kind of the idea of nuclear horror. In America, they had one which was called The Day After, I think. And there was one that the BBC made called The War Game, which was so shocking about what would happen in nuclear war that they couldn't broadcast it. And they ended up broadcasting it around that mid-'80s moment. They didn't broadcast it for 20 years.
Oh, wow. And we haven't had a nuclear war, so those worked.
So those, but it contributed to people thinking, what are we doing here? And it contributed to the idea of weapons proliferation.
By the way, I should say at time of recording, we haven't had a nuclear war.
We haven't had, please.
We're recording this on Monday morning.
This is the last thing you hear, I'm incredibly sorry.
So you say the inquiry still ongoing. We can watch it on the YouTube channel of...
You can watch it on the Post Office Inquiry YouTube channel. It's very easy to access, and it will be starting again on Thursday, the 11th of January.
And we can play the game of Who Do We Cast in Mr. Bates versus the Post Office 2.
Yes.
Kudos to ITV and to everyone in that, but most kudos of all to Alan Bates and the incredible campaigners. And it's so lovely to have that story properly out there and in a way that's never going to be ignored again.
Absolutely.
Shall we move on? Shall we just do a slight one-show type gear change and talk about the Traitors?
Yes, please.
As I say, no spoilers. I absolutely promise you that. But the first 3 episodes have dropped. The next 3 episodes are dropping on Wednesday. We've watched the first 3. I thought the fun thing to do, because I don't want to give away spoilers because people will watch this at different times, is talk about how we might go about winning the Traitors, because when you watch, that's all you're doing, right? You're working out how you would react.
So The Traitors is a show where I think about 22 contestants are locked up in a Scottish castle where three of them are made, or around three are made faithful traitors, and the rest are called the faithful, and they have to work out, almost like a sort of game of Wink Murder, who is a traitor and who is a faithful, and they have to undergo a few missions a different mission every day for fun, and they at night they sit around something called the Round Table, which is the centerpiece of the show, where they accuse each other, and also the traitors every night after that decide on one person to murder.
And last year it was a huge first series on the BBC One, their biggest entertainment launch for years and years and years, a massive hit. First of all, would you rather be a traitor or a faithful?
I would rather be a traitor. The clue is in the title.
The
traitors run the game. Yeah, it's much harder to win as a faithful, although in the first series, in one of the first three series, some faithfuls have won, but I don't think that they were the greatest strategists. I think more of the game is luck than strategy. There's more than you think of luck than there is to strategy.
I certainly think it's easier being a traitor, that's for sure. You just have control over the game slightly there, in as much as anyone ever has control over the game. So talk me through how you would win the Traitors.
First of all,
you walk in, day one.
I've got to have a good social game. I know I have, because it's so much. You also get these ones who appear in the first episode and say, I'm a master strategist. I'm really good at the stuff. That's how I'll win the game. It's like, yes, but you're not a very nice person. So we swiftly see those depart. So I would do that. I think if I was a faithful, honestly, if I was lucky enough, I would try and identify the apex predator, the most powerful traitor.
Yeah.
Say to everyone, it could never be him. Become friends with that person. I don't know why I'm saying it as a man. It might be a lady. I could never be him or her. It could never be. The one person I know it isn't. And say that all along. Get to the final and knife them there.
That's good, but then you have to know who the traitor is.
Yeah, well, I bat myself.
Because you read people. I'm a reader of people.
Although, of course, one of the great satisfying things about the show is watching people who are really confident. They're confident enough to be on television, get it wrong every night, and then be shown to have got them wrong every night. Because this is what we want to happen in real life. This is what we want to see. We're all around people all day long who are wrong but don't quite get it, and maybe will never get it. And this is like watching very confident people be shown every day. Yeah, you were wrong about that. Yeah, you got that completely wrong.
Immediate consequence is such a beautiful. And there was a guy in the first series in the UK who was a magician. Yeah. And it was about 3 episodes in, and you know what? He tired of the shenanigans. Like, he let the little people play their game. And he said, guys, you have to understand, this is what I do for a living, and I'm pretty good at it. I read people. I'm telling you now that John is a traitor. Listen, if he's not, get rid of me. But he is. Which we see.
Bye, dickhead.
Yeah, but we see that in public life all the time, right? That's all Twitter is. It's people going, the thing you don't understand about this situation, and that I do understand, is this. Hashtag thank me later. Right. So we see it all the time. And of course, those people never get proved wrong, really. Or if they do, it's months later. On this. So he goes, it's John. I just read people. I just have an instinct that you guys don't have. And then, of course, John is a faithful. And this guy's going, you know what? My bad. You're like, but everyone knows you're an idiot. Yeah, like, we knew it, but it's so lovely to see people get their comeuppance.
A couple of clairvoyants haven't done as well as they might have done.
There's an Australian clairvoyant, and but there's a clairvoyant.
I think her signal was blocked.
There's a clairvoyant in this new one, but it's interesting to have a clairvoyant in there, because the truth is that everyone's name is mentioned at some point, right?
Yeah,
people keep saying, oh, it's so and so, it's so and so, it's so and so. At some point, a clairvoyant can get lucky and get you. And also, there might be, if they suddenly go, Paula is the traitor, and she actually is, that's a problem for the traitors, because there's enough people who go, well, the clairvoyant said it.
Well, it's a Derek Akora situation,
And so I would always get rid of a clairvoyant immediately. Not because they actually know, but because they can influence people. Now, there's a glitch in the first series of the Traitors, which is this. You have to think about the show as a producer. Right. In the first series, this is how we see each murder. They discuss the murders, they get it down to 3 people, and then they're all sat down at breakfast, and the people come in one by one until we discover who's been murdered. Okay. But because it's TV, we know they're discussing 3 people. So the last person through the door who hasn't been murdered was always someone they have been thinking about murdering. Because as TV viewers, we want it to be between,
My children identified this the other day, and I was like, why had I not thought of that?
So you got John or Mary, and so
yes.
So in that first series, you would know exactly who was not a traitor by who came through the door last. Now,
or surely if they repeated it for the second series, because those people might not have thought it like that because they'd never seen the show air.
well, that's the thing. The second series, of course, they're changing it up because they're not idiots.
Yeah.
You know, but if I was in there, the last person come through the door, I would take aside and say, listen, this is just between me and you, but I know for a fact you're not a traitor. Okay, I know for a fact and this is why, because you were last through the door. And that would put a protective bubble around me. Firstly, the people thought I was trusted. I trusted them. So if they're faithful, they're like, oh man, yeah, this is great. This is proof. But if they're a traitor, as you say, that's the way to make friends with an apex traitor, is I can say, I know for a fact that you're definitely not a traitor. So that's what you have to do. All you got to do in this game is survive for as long as you can. It's not about finding traitors, this game, at all.
Yeah.
It's just not, because if you get rid of a traitor, they replace the traitor. The traitors are like the sugar babes. You know, there's a never end. They're exactly that. They can just replace them. So all you've got to do is get through to that last 5. And when you're there, if you've been a faithful all along, good luck. But at some point you would have been made a traitor by that, but you can't stay in that game that long and not have been.
I would like to be made a traitor. Sorry, that's the other thing I would like to say. I would like to be recruited. That works.
The key, as we all know, it's the key in life as well. It's a key in every single reality show, and yet people forget every single time, is shut up for the first couple of episodes. I mean, honestly, if you're a traitor or you're faithful, keep quiet. Why are these people being... Do you know what? I'm going to lead this. I think you're a traitor. Mate, you could have just said nothing.
It's possible not to tweet. It's totally possible not to say anything.
It is possible not to tweet. It's exactly right. Just keep quiet for a few weeks. It's like those people in The Apprentice who go, yeah, I'll be team leader first week. You think you've just moved your chances from being one of 20 people to get knocked out to one of 2 people. And no one will remember in week 3 that you said you were going to be the team leader. And in the Traitors, it's the same. Don't accuse anybody. Don't be a character. Don't even wear an unusual hat. Don't peacock in any way whatsoever. If I would always be sat down so people didn't realise I was really tall, because that would be enough. They go, he's quite... Do you know the thing about Richard? He's quite tall, isn't he? And does that...
I'd have enjoyed seeing you on the missions try to achieve this, but yes.
Yeah.
I think you'd have broken your cover there.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Why is he sitting down when he's swimming? It's so weird. Here's one of the key things about could you win the Traitors? Because, you know, we can sit here and chat about, you know, making alliances and, you know, not standing out too much. But I was talking to one of the producers of it, and he said, here's one of the key things you have to remember. We do this at incredible speed. He said they are locked up every single day. Someone's being banished and someone's being murdered every single day. And then there's these, you know, loads and loads of filming. We've got to do the tasks and challenges. The tension is ratcheted. He said when they go into that round table, they play that song, The Hanging Tree from Hunger Games.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Just to make it even more haunting. And we've all been in situations with groups of people where we're thrown together where reality does become heightened.
Yeah.
You know, there is groupthink does happen. And however smart we like to think we are, it would happen to us as well. So they are under incredible pressure.
Someone has a sort of full-scale verbal collapse in one of these episodes.
Which is amazing.
The first time I've heard the word am I or amn't I?
Yeah, but it's really...
Amn't. He keeps saying amn't.
Yeah.
I mean, and knows he's having it and is sort of having an out-of-body, like...
absolutely furious.
I don't know I don't understand what's happened to me. I think he says, I always thought I was tough and I'm sort of breaking here.
I think what you have to be essentially is someone who's kind but incredibly good at lying, which is quite a rare combination. But the way I would get through it is always think as a producer. So, as I say, the little trick with the last person through the door. Again, I talked to the producer, said, are you still doing that? He said, no, we've changed that. I thought, that's slightly annoying, but I can still use it to my advantage one way or another. And to think, who was it most interesting they've cast as a traitor? If I was the producer of this show, who would I cast as a traitor? Which of the quiet people would I cast as a traitor? And again, that thing of they always tend to go, maybe we should look at the quiet people. You think, yeah, of course you should look at the quiet people.
The herd behaviour is so extraordinary. There's such a lot of I saw Goody Proctor with the devil.
Yes.
And then everyone feels like, well, if we all get behind that person today, then we're all sort of that happens a lot.
Yeah, and they do amazing things like, you know, someone. You know, if you do something like when you cheer when the faithful is found, for whatever reason, people go, oh, that's what a traitor would do. You think, what a traitor... I tell you what a traitor would do. A traitor would do nothing.
Yeah.
A traitor will absolutely keep quiet because So all they have to do is keep quiet. By and large, quite uninsightful people get through to the end of that show, because why would you vote them off? But if someone is
there's a stupidity premium, if I can put it that way.
There sort of is, but stupidity mixed with kindness. So if you've got stupidity mixed with extreme aggressiveness, then that's unpredictable and you have to get rid of it.
Also, that mother-father thing from reality TV, if you become a sort of older statesman, stateswoman figure, that helps you a lot.
Yeah, that's what people want. People need to feel part of their family. I will say, of these first 3 episodes, there are some genuine gasp out loud moments.
Yeah,
I mean, there really are. If you haven't watched them, there's like some proper brilliant stuff in there, and again, completely different to the last series, and that's testament to the producers. But there's one particular moment in episode 3,
which is an absolute marmalade dropper. That it was a bit late in the evening and I didn't have any marmalade, but nearly lost the drink. I mean, really, it was extraordinary. And I must say, a shout out to the superlative presenting skills of Claudia Winkleman, who I think does
great.
Because she's normally sort of like your best ally and your best friend and giggles along with you, and in this she has to be something really quite different, and I've full credit to her, and of course to her Highland stylist. There's barely a woman out there not wanting every coat and jumper.
Also, I like it when she breaks character a little bit and can't help but be nice.
Yeah,
she does every now and again, and then she goes, "Oh no, hold on, Claudia, you're supposed to hold on. No, you have to be tough." So I would say if you haven't started watching, it's really well worth your time. The first 3 episodes are already on iPlayer,
and the next ones don't drop till this Wednesday, so you can catch up, and it's amazing.
And there's another 3 are dropping this Wednesday. That's right, isn't it? But honestly, I would be voted out in week 3. Is the truth.
Oh, I'd be in week 1. It's like, would you ever be Prime Minister, Marina? It would be a failed state in 6 hours, I should think. 6 hours.
Do you know what? I'd be a worse Prime Minister than you.
No, it's not possible.
Yeah, it'd be awful.
It's not possible.
Yeah, don't you think? I can only think of one other person in the rest of stable who'd be a worse Prime Minister than us two. I'm not going to mention his name. Should we take a little break?
Yes, let's do that now.
Welcome back to The Rest is Entertainment. Can I talk, before we talk about the Golden Globes, I just want to touch on the darts for a moment.
Please touch on them heavily.
Everyone had, you mustn't touch on them too heavily.
No.
So a light grip is the key for playing darts. Everyone went darts insane because of Luke Littler, this 16-year-old from Warrington who got through to the final in his first year. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what that might mean and what wider things we can take from it. Firstly, I'll say that darts is the single best television sport. The reason that anyone who turned on because there's a 16-year-old to watch it and loved it is because the format of darts is the best format there is. A small number of legs.
Don't write in. He's not going to budge on this one.
Oh, I ain't budging. But also, when I explain my thinking, you'll go, oh, do you know what? At first I thought you were wrong, but now I think you're right. And perhaps you should be Prime Minister. The first thing I bring in is to implement darts formats on other sports. It's all jeopardy. It's all moments of jeopardy, darts. They have a very small number of legs in each set, so first to 3. So even the first leg of any set is very, very important. It has this beautiful thing if you have to finish on a double, which is the hardest shot you take in the entire leg. So you can be miles ahead and still lose. Like any format creator would be so happy to have created that.
That double 2 will be giving him nightmares.
Exactly. Whereas if you just had to get to 501, you think, oh, you've done it. Let's do the next set. I want to compare and contrast it to tennis. In darts, first to 3 wins you a set. Okay. In tennis, firstly, each of the games are longer, but also you got to win 6 games to win a set, right? So if you win a game of tennis, you have to win 6 games each for 3 sets. Okay, that's how you win a game of tennis. Tennis will be twice as exciting if you had to win 3 games each in 6 sets. So it's the first of 6 sets, you win 3 games in each set. Then every single game of tennis at Wimbledon is exciting. Not for the purists, I get that, but sport isn't for the purists, right? You want to grow sport.
They could totally do something with tennis. Has the best commentator in all of sport, who is entirely wasted on his sport, McEnroe.
He's amazing.
Again, please don't write in.
Unless you're John McEnroe, in which case feel free to write in. But the key thing is, don't reduce the amount of effort anyone has to put in to win. Okay, you have to, like in the darts, you have to win 7 sets to win that final. It's a lot. It's a lot of throwing. There was once a documentary called Darts Wives, and a guy called Chris Mason. his wife was on there, and he said, "They think you're unfit, don't they? But we put one of those pedometers on you when you were playing darts, and at the end of the game, how much had you walked?" He went, "Yeah, it's about 450 meters, wasn't it?" He goes, "Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot." So if I've moved on to tennis, if you're playing exactly the same amount of games, but there are twice as many big moments of jeopardy in exactly the same number of games. The game is the same. The same people are serving. You're hitting exactly the same shots over exactly the same period of time. But if you're watching, there are twice as many exciting bits. Darts does that. Darts knows that a small number of legs in a large number of sets. Sometimes the darts just does leg play, and it's boring. It's like first to 11 and stuff like that. But if you're doing sets and legs, that's the way to do sport. So anyone who was turning on just because there's this 16-year-old there, actually, you're sort of drawn in because you are never, ever bored. But the ratings were extraordinary. Now, weirdly, we don't just throw this podcast together. It was on at the same time as Mr. Bates versus the Post Office and the Traitors first episode.
Launch, yeah.
So they all launched at the same time. And guess which got the biggest ratings? The darts. Now, of course, with catch-up and so on, it won't. But the only thing people really, really, really are watching now live is sport. So 2022, the top 100 shows on American network television, how many do you reckon were scripted shows, dramas and sitcoms? The top 100 broadcasts.
I don't know. Tell me.
0.
Really?
82 were NFL games. 82 of the top 100.
I see. Okay.
Others were college games. Others were college basketball games. There is not a single, I think 90 odd of the top 100 things are sport. That's where terrestrial television is going. There's more and more and more money.
But it's also where streaming is going. And actually, people are talking about Netflix are going to have to get into, clearly Amazon are getting into live sport in a much bigger way. Netflix, Disney is trying to put together ESPN and as a standalone streamer. And everybody's going to have to get into the linear of sport,
It's
whether
exactly
or not
that.
you're a streaming service.
Well, you can't fast forward through the adverts if something's live.
Yeah.
You cannot fast forward through them. And, that darts, it peaked at 4.8 million. You could not launch a new show to 4.8 million. You could not do it. And sports does it all the time. And it throws up these stories.
Was that bigger than the Ashes?
It's bigger than any show Sky Sports has ever had apart from football.
Isn't that fascinating?
In the entire history of Sky Sports. And it's because sport throws up characters that general culture doesn't. If you're a marketing executive, you are not promoting Luke Littler as the face of your television program. However, if you play sport, if you're the best in the world, you're the best in the world. It doesn't matter if you're 16 or whatever you are. So someone like Luke Littler comes through, and you know what? Turns out that is what British people want. British people do want to see this kid who's 16 years old, who's incredibly articulate, who's incredibly good at what he does, who gives us something culturally we haven't seen before. And it'll be fascinating to see what our culture does to him over the next year and over the next 5 years and over the next 10 years. One imagines over the next year it will give him a very rough ride. One hopes over the next 3 years it'll get easier, and one hopes by the time he's 26, he'll be just a very well played, very, very happy sports person.
Now, on an earlier episode of this podcast, you suggested that they made an amazing No Holds Barred behind the scenes documentary on professional darts.
About like a drive to survive for darts.
Yeah. Are they now doing this?
They are doing that.
They are doing
Sky
this
are
now.
doing it. Isn't that great?
I mean, the content almost that goes around the sport in this current era is just as important. Drive to Survive has obviously been absolutely massive for bringing audiences into Formula One. And the more you have sort of a sport adjacent content, the more your sport is amplified.
It's exactly that. Sport has always been and always will be soap opera. Nothing else. It's fine to see that someone scores a wonderful goal, and that's lovely. We love seeing it. But it is soap opera. It's who's a goodie, who's a baddie, whose father used to play for this team they're now playing against, whose mum, originally played football for England and wasn't paid, and now you're on £1 million. It's soap opera. It's all it is. But you can't do soap opera if you don't know the personalities. And one thing darts has got, it's got personalities.
It's got some
in it,
huge personalities.
In a way that other sports do not have. They've called this documentary, by the way, Darts, which I quite like. I would have called it
The Darts.
The
surely.
Darts is what I would have called it. But listen,
absolutely essential, definite article.
They know their business. So I'll say this. Listen, we talked about a 69-year-old sub postmaster, Alan Bates. Now we're talking about a 16-year-old kid from Warrington, Luke Littler. And isn't it amazing where we find our heroes.
Yeah.
And it speaks to us as a country that those two people, are what we want to
dominated
consume.
the first week of January 2024.
Absolutely wonderful. And on that note, let's talk about some celebrities, shall we?
Last night was the Golden Globes. We're recording this on a Monday, and that is it's sort of the traditional kickoff of the film award seasons, although they do award television as well. And the big winners were Oppenheimer, Poor Things with the Emma Stone film, and on the TV side, Succession, which is not unexpected. Barbie was sort of overlooked quite a lot. They created this special sort of category for it. What was it called? Box office and cinematic achievements.
Yeah.
Which was a reason to make Taylor Swift attend your awards ceremony, because her Eras Tour movie, which was sold directly into theatres, was nominated and she did attend. So that was probably enough for them. And then Barbie got that particular award. But I was sort of trying to find out from someone who was there last night what it was like. And they said that this used to be run by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, these awards, the Golden Globes, and there have been a number of scandals, sort of corruption, sexual misconduct, diversity, which I won't trouble you with today. Suffice to say, they're now owned by Chelsea owner Todd Bowley. But genuinely,
and everything he touches,
gold, everything. Well,
wow.
The old Bowley touch was in evidence for the studios last night, because apparently there was a seating arrangement that no one was happy with. The type of staging meant that rather than sort of everyone being down in the pit, like we're all really, really important and we're all going to win our awards, there were tiers of tables, which is potential. No. Apparently some people were thinking they might not even go. But it was, anyway, and it seems to be, from the clips I've seen, you couldn't watch it in the UK, as far as I can work out, despite the fact I subscribed to Paramount Plus. But there was some sort of fiascoid hosting by a comedian called Joe Coy, who I wasn't aware of, and on current evidence probably won't be revisiting the back catalogue of.
Although is Chelsea's new left back, I'm being told.
And will be as good as all the other ones.
Brand extensions.
Yeah, so it's quite a sort of awkward vibe. But I think what's interesting about this is that awards used to be absolutely massive business for the studios. They all wanted them because there was a huge awards bump. The Golden Globes were always a little bit kind of wacky and did their own thing, but they were, to some extent, one of the precursors to the Oscars, which are obviously the big ones. But the Oscar bump, as they call it, which used to be if your movie was nominated and let alone won, we got a huge sort of boost in audience figures.
I thought the Oscar bump was cocaine.
Sorry. There's probably less of that. There's less of both.
So what's happened to this world?
I think what's happened. But theatre owners are saying that the box office, we've had a quite weird year in 2023 because the Barbenheimer phenomenon did a whole lot of business for theatres. And they are predicting that theatre owners are saying that their takings will be down 25% this coming year. All over America and other places, movie theatres are being turned into soft play areas, climbing walls. It's it's a really difficult time. But I think what's interesting about this is that there is now such a huge disconnect between the movies that people go to see and the movies that win the awards. And this is not necessarily the case with Oppenheimer, but in almost all these other things, in the old days, something like, obviously, The Godfather opens huge. The Godfather would now be a niche film. I mean, Rain Man, this is, in today's money, almost $1 billion movie. There's no way Rain Man would be anything like that these days. So what happens is that people are going to see the 4th, 5th, 10th iteration of franchise movies, which are the studio's big tentpoles. And then there's this whole other sort of hived off side category, which was movies that might win awards. I loved Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives, but these are not things that people throng to see. And that has become more and more and more over the last 2 decades, a huge disconnect. And in a way, it means not only that award ceremonies are less culturally relevant, which I definitely think they are, but also that the films, to some extent, are not really the ones that people see. So you kind of wonder why you have this whole huge apparatus. There is prestige attached to awards. Of course there is. I mean, I personally don't like awards in general for creative endeavours. That's a really unpopular opinion. I think any kinds of awards, actually, I think are useless and stupid.
You turn them away, turn them back. I don't want it. I do not want your Columnist of the Year award.
But I have to say that I have to say I think that about all awards. I shall say that tactfully. All awards are stupid.
You will prize my TV Choice Award out of my cold, dead hands. Tell you that for nothing.
But listen, I remember talking to one of the Veep writers, and they said, one year they were at the Emmys, and they were sitting, and it was like they were sort of, pitching Breaking Bad against Game of Thrones. And they were like, just why are we doing this? They're both brilliant. You know, the idea that you're sort of in some kind of weird confected competition.
But
that's what
like
sport's
saying,
for. That's what sport's for.
Yeah, but it is
I don't
sport.
think you should. But no, it's not.
Yeah, of
no,
course
it's not,
show
Richard.
business is
no,
sport.
it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
Of course it is.
No, this creative endeavours are not sport.
But you could
sport
say,
is sport.
But Luke Littler and Luke Humphreys, you could have just said, you know what? You're both great in different ways. Why don't we?
No, because it's sport.
Share the money.
But you don't do that with art. There must be. That's just a category mistake. No, you don't.
Otherwise, art is boring. You know, there's nothing better than, listen, I love to watch television programs, but it's more fun to then rank them and say which are the best 10. Don't you think?
No, I think that's.
Yeah.
I think that's unbelievably depressing.
You love
no, unbelievably so.
Of all the depressing things you've heard, where would you rank that on a list? Because that's what I'm interested in.
It's very male as well.
Yes, it is very, but you know, listen, I got news for you.
Oh, listen, I love men. I've got a huge amount of time for them, but this is ridiculous.
I love it. No, but all I'm saying is I quite like that there are awards. I mean, by and large, they always go to the wrong people, but I don't think it does creative people any harm every now and again to have a little bit of...
They're often revenue gathering schemes. My industry, journalism, there are about 3 awards, which are always referred to, by the way, in any industry as the Oscars of our industry.
Yes.
Which I always find hilarious. I've seen plumbing awards. They're called the Oscars. If you ever see them written, widely regarded as the Oscars of the plumbing industry. Do you know it was quite a while ago now, but the awards industry became so big that there was something for a couple of years called the Awards, which awarded excellence in the awards industry because obviously these ceremonies take a lot. Anyway, so they had a big ballroom up in high on Park Lane somewhere. And
I like it. I think it's a night out for people. I think people quite enjoy it. People in all industries like it. But the one thing you know about everything from the Golden Globes to the Plumbers Awards is afterwards there's 4 or 5 plumbers going, I cannot believe Dave got Best Newcomer. I mean, have you seen his U-bends? I mean, literally, I was doing that 10 years ago. So, but it's whatever the industry, okay, it's exactly the same. A couple of things I thought about the Golden Globes. Yes. Firstly, that monologue, the Joe Coy monologue, which you can watch online. I was talking to someone who writes a lot of award show things, and whenever you do things like the BAFTAs, they will always cut to the person you're talking about, right? They're the only people there who are not going to laugh. So if you do a joke about Daniel Day-Lewis, of course the director then cuts to Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis is not going to be laughing his head off. I was talking to somebody who wrote a joke about Robert De Niro. And, suddenly all over the papers it goes, joke falls flat. And you think, well, no, everyone was laughing. It's just the camera was on Robert De Niro, who, for whatever reason, didn't enjoy the joke that was done about him. So I think it's quite hard to write a monologue for awards. Firstly, the host will say, "Oh, I'm going to write my own stuff," and then 2 days beforehand we go, "Actually, I haven't had time to write my own stuff." You will then send a list of 50 gags. The production company will veto 40 of those gags for reasons of taste or whatever it is, or because they don't get them. The host will then not understand 8 of the next 10. You are then told hastily to go away and rewrite different versions of the gags you've wrote because we don't want to upset Leonardo DiCaprio. And then the host will then mangle the jokes that do exist, and as is the case of Joe Coy, slag off the writers, which is what he did, which is the one thing you must not do. Another thing is, I read the headline this morning that Timothée Chalamet and Kylie were on a date. And
Kylie Jenner, that is.
But the
littlest Kardashian.
But that's it. I suddenly realised, oh, of course, you're so out of touch. Because I was thinking, blimey, Kylie, you go for it. That's not, I thought that's not bad, but you think the fact they called her Kylie instead of Kylie Jenner. Yeah. I thought, has she even taken the single name of Kylie?
No, I don't know. She hasn't taken the single name. That was ridiculous. No.
Okay, good. So that wasn't me at fault.
No, I don't think so. I think should be Kylie Jenner in headline. She's not a single name headline person.
And finally, how is The Bear and how are any of the actors in The Bear winning Best Comedy and Best Comedy Actors? Explain that to me. It is not a comedy. They are not comedy actors.
Well, it's interesting that it's. I mean, there's always these kind of category things where people are saying why that should, and I think there's another controversy where people are saying why is Barbie adapted screenplay because you've adapted it from a toy, which I think actually is part of the problem with the movie is that it is a giant. A movie made in the service of Mattel. That's one of the big things. Much as I enjoyed going to it and enjoyed seeing it, and it's sort of great what they've done. There's a real chill down my spine that you make something like that in the service of a toy corporation. But yes, no, I don't know. There's a lot of people saying they shouldn't be in those categories. But I guess you take where you're nominated and where you can win. So,
but if you're I just don't understand as a jury that you watch The Bear and go, yeah, that's the best comedy. I don't understand how you watched, and it won the best comedy. Jeremy Allen White won Best Comic Actor. Io Edebiri won Best Comic Actress. And if you did a supercut of the funniest bits of both of their performances, there is not. And by the way, brilliant.
It's an amazing show.
Great,
yes,
but it is not funny. It is not Del Boy falling through the bar. Which is what I mean. It's not.
Yes,
funny.
And I think it's hard, as you say, for other comedies because it's so very good that if it's in that category, you sort of feel like you have to award it. But
exactly that. But yeah, if I was any of the other actors from any other shows, it's a bit. Come on,
muttering into their pints.
My opinion is you shouldn't put art up against other art. I don't like it. I don't like award shows. I don't like. To me, that's sport. To me, to say is The Bear funnier than Ted Lasso? Come on.
Yes, it is.
I'll say this about Jeremy Allen White, though. Have you seen his Calvin Klein photos that broke the internet?
Yes, obviously, I can see why the internet was certainly cracked.
Yeah.
Damaged, faulty.
Goodness me, he's ripped, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
I can see why they gave him a Best Comedy Performance.
Yes.
For that. Give the guy anything.
Written all over him.
Well, that was... we covered a lot, didn't we?
We covered much ground.
Can we talk much more in future episodes about how much you hate awards and rankings and lists and how much I love them?
Well, certainly for the next 2 months, it will be, I'm sure, an ongoing runner.
That's perfect. What if we get nominated for a podcast award?
Well, then you must go and collect it.
No, I never go. Whenever Pointless gets nominated for anything, I always say, well, listen, if you've won, they'll tell you. So just say you're not coming, and then they'll have to tell you if they've won. But Xander always just goes anyway. And so I get the worst of all worlds. They're sort of fine that he's turned up and they can have him collect the award. So, but not that we win anything. But listen, we're back on Thursday, aren't we, for a question and answer episode?
We will now be doing 2 episodes every single week. 1 main episode like the one you've just listened to, and 1 answering your questions, which have all been so brilliant that they are actually a huge backlog of amazing questions.
There's so many good questions.
I love
them. But we're looking forward to recording that, and it'll be out on Thursday.
Yes, it will be. Right.
Lovely. See you then, everyone.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.